From the outset, I am not suggesting that every single Trinitarian out there uses bad arguments like these to try and prove their dogma, but these are frequently heard points nevertheless. One will often hear from Trinitarians that Jesus was in fact God because no man could lead a sinless life unless he were God. But my question is, if only God could lead a blemishless, sinless life, and hence be the only one able to redeem, then how did Adam lead a sinless life for the length of time that he did? Was Adam not a sinless man for some time? Was he God? Did he have to be God to be sinless for that stretch of time? One will also often hear Trinitarians claim that only God could die to save the world, that no one else's death would be sufficient or good enough. If only the death of God could redeem us, then why do you claim that God escaped the cross and never died at all? Is the man nature of Yeshua your Savior? Or did the God nature save you by dying? If the God nature didn't, then wouldn't that render all such claims that only God dying could save us preposterous? Besides the fact that he made the explicit claim that he cannot die. Romans 5, starting in verse 17, says, "For if, because of one man's trespass, death reigned through that one man, much more will those who receive the abundance of grace and the free gift of righteousness reign in life through the one man, Jesus Christ. Therefore, as one trespass led to condemnation for all men, so one act of righteousness leads to justification and life for all men." Can you find anywhere in these texts that God required the last man, Adam, to be a God-man in order for redemption to be possible? Why aren't these texts a good enough description of the truth? Namely, as verse 19 in chapter 5 of Romans says, that by the one man's disobedience the many were made sinners. So by the one man's obedience the many will be made righteous. If you're a Trinitarian, you would either have to admit that these sentiments aren't good enough or that they're so incomplete as to be useless, with imposed ideas wrecking their simplicity in your mind. Yes, the one man expressions in the book of Romans should basically be sacrilege to a Trinitarian who sees Jesus as God-man. After all, I hear from so many of you that only the death of God could save us, while you at the same time claim the God nature didn't die at all. Further, if you were to remain consistent when you claim that only God could lead a sinless life, then you would have to say that the first Adam was a sinner from the moment of his creation. Are you consistent?